You couldn't even board a bus or a train without a national ID card. The government wanted to know who everybody was. We all were on the list. And then, of course, we got this new style of government. We had what here we call regionalism. Austria had 7 states, and Hitler said it's a lot easier to govern 4 states instead of 7. So we merge the 7 states into 4, and then we only have 4 governors. We save a lot of money. And of course, we didn't question that either. As a lobbyist in South Dakota, I found 3 times a bill that they wanted to merge our 66 counties in South Dakota into 15. I said, wow, history is coming back. And I testified in committee. I said, well, it looks like you're doing a little same thing what Hitler did to us in Austria. And needless to say, 3 times the bill went down in flames. We did not want to regionalize our 66 counties. We wanted to have local control. What that means to merge everything, because centralization is a very, very important component in socialism. Centralizing government, taking away local control. So, the new government. First thing what happened, oh, and it sounded so wonderful, the Equal Rights Amendment. Equal rights for women. Oh, the teachers were just wonderful for that, you know, they really hailed that, because in Austria at that time, if you were a female teacher, and by tradition, if the female teacher would get married, she couldn't teach in school anymore, because the tradition was that women would stay home and be a good wife and raise a family. So the teachers, oh well, they said, you know, we invested a lot of money and time in our education, and now we're going to be liberated. So the liberation of the women didn't last long. Then, when the war came in 1939, they not only drafted the young men, they also drafted the young girls. And the first year they had to be in the labor corps, but they already had the girls at age 18. They had pre-military training. They lived in barracks. And when the year was over and the war started in 1939, they were sent out into the firing line as anti-aircraft gunners and in the Signal Corps. So when the news started traveling back that the girls got wounded and killed, we realized that the Equal Rights Amendment, we got the frosting on the cake. And the cake was so rotten underneath. And when we fought the Equal Rights Amendment here in America in the 1980s, we know why they wanted to have the Equal Rights Amendment, because every country around the world who has either a socialist government or a communist government has an Equal Rights Amendment, except the United States. We were the ones who went out into the trenches and fought it, and many of you probably were in the trenches too. And so the other part of the Equal Rights Amendment was, it had 2 components. Economic and social. Economically, it was designed to redistribute the wealth of the country, like Joe the plumber demonstrated. The other part is, or was, to the social part, because under socialism, everybody has to be in the workforce. So the moms had to be out in the workforce. If you weren't working, you were called a parasite. So the moms were out in the workforce. What do you think happened to the children? Well, the government immediately had a remedy for that too, child care centers. You could leave your baby at age 6 weeks and your children in the child care center for 7 days a week, 24 hours. The longer you kept them there, the better they liked it. And the staff in those child care centers, they were not the grandmotherly type of women what we know here who babysit. No, they were highly trained women in child psychology to mold the children as early as possible as the state wanted them. So that was the idea of the Equal Rights Amendment. And of course, redistributing the wealth. We had a huge welfare apparatus. We also had a law, a guaranteed income. Everybody was entitled of a guaranteed income from the government. Now, if your income was not on the level what the government decreed, then to be equal, you got free housing, you got food stamps, you got fuel, whatever. So everybody was on an equal level. But the downside of that was that our taxes escalated up to 70%. That is socialism. You have to take from those who work hard and work very hard to give to those who have not or who don't want to work hard. Now here in the United States, we are already of the 50-50 level. 50% in this country don't pay income tax, and they have their hand in your pocket. That's socialism. So that was the component of the Equal Rights Amendment. And thank God we defeated that in the 1980s. Otherwise, we would be up to our necks in total socialism by now. Of course, we also had tons of bureaucrats, all government employees, and they wrote all the regulations and all the rules. In Washington, we have 42 commissars who are writing the rules and regulation, and then our president will make whatever by executive order. Circumventing the Congress, that's socialism, where the people have no say-so whatsoever, because the bureaucrats, especially in EPA, you know, the green movement, that's the new red. They're making all the rules and regulation, and it will escalate up in costs. Everything will be very, utilities will be very expensive, you know, so that's what happens under socialism. And all these bureaucrats, what we had, they were, for one reason or another, nitpicking at everything. Like OSHA, we had OSHA. And they would go into the businesses and nitpick around that they would have to replace this and they would replace that. So a lot of small businesses went out of business. Like in the restaurants, they would go in there and look around, the bureaucrats, and they would look around, and if their tables had corners like this, nope, you cannot have that, that's dangerous, you could get hurt, you have to have round tables. So a lot of small businesses went out of business. Now they also went out on the farms, counted their livestock, and measured their land, and told the farmer what to plant, how much he had to plant, and how much he had to harvest, regardless of the weather. And if the farmer couldn't come up with the harvest, he got fined, and God forbid, when they counted their livestock, if he would butcher a pig for himself, he would go to jail. Everything was under rules and regulation. Everything. Also, in Austria at that time, before Hitler, we had an excellent health care. We had good hospitals, we had good doctors, we had good health care by private insurance, worked very well. This all changed overnight. Hitler nationalized our healthcare system, and healthcare was free for everybody. I remember my brother-in-law was a family physician, and he told me that when he would come to his office at 8 o'clock in the morning, 40 patients were already waiting there for him to be treated. Because it was free. Everybody came for everything, for anything. To clean out your earwax, you name it, everything. But if the emergencies were taken care of, but if you needed a elective surgery, which was not an emergency, you waited 18 months for a bed in the hospital. Because all the hypochondriac were using the beds in the hospital. Because you got a free rest, it didn't cost anything. Why not? Why not? It was very misused. So many of the doctors left the country. There was no more money for research because it was all used for health care. So many doctors left the country, including my own husband. He would not want to practice medicine like his brother had to, and he immigrated to the United States. And I remember very clearly that he told me, he said, when he had to repeat his internship in a hospital, he said, I just marveled how modern the hospitals were and how good your health care is here. He said, I hope to God it would never change. Well, it will change. There's no question about that. Hitler wrote a book, My Struggle, Mein Kampf. But the problem was that very few people read the book. He outlined in that book everything what he was going to do. But everybody was so preoccupied with sports. Everybody was involved in athletics and sports. No time to read a book. So many people did not read the book. So abortions were highly illegal because Hitler wanted a lot of babies. Blue eyes and blonde hair, the master race. But if one of the couple was not 100% Aryan and the woman was pregnant, she was forced to have an abortion, to give up her baby. How sad. How sad. Education was also naturalized, federalized. And that literally happened overnight. I was in 6th grade in public school. We had very good public schools in Austria. We prayed in the morning, before class, and after class. And we also had religious education twice a week. So that morning after the election, I walked into my classroom and the crucifix was gone. And there was Hitler's picture with the Nazi flag on each side. And our teacher said, today we don't pray anymore. Today we sing Deutschland, Deutschland über alles, Germany above every